Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Rachele Teson and I'm a Nationally Certified School Psychologist here in Missouri. This week's Tech Tip Tuesday is all about how to use Google Sheets to create a digital case log. Something that I really recommend is using Google Sheets in order to keep track of all of the different evaluation plans, all the compliance deadlines, and all of those things that we have to manage as school psychologists. So what you're seeing on the screen now is a screen share from what I would recommend a Google Drive setup to kind of look like. So if you haven't already checked out that video on Google Drive organization for school psychologists, I'll leave a link for that down in the description. So let's say that you've got this built out after following along with that video, and we're looking at our special education folder and then case log. If you wanted to start here and building it out from scratch, you would right click and click on Google Sheets. And then what you would build out is everything that you would need to know for each case that you would need to manage. So I like to start out with the student name. I like to know what building they're in. I'm in multiple buildings as a school-based practitioner, so that's important to me. I might want to know their date of birth, especially for assessment planning related purposes. I might want to know their teacher, things like that, kind of building out those initial demographics or information that you might need to know. The next step would be coming up with different ways to help track with all of those dates. So let's say we want to keep track of the day that the referral was made. You could type in referral date. You might need to send procedural safeguards, parent bill of rights, wherever you are. The name of that might sound different, but just parent rights as a caregiver who has a child going through an evaluation. So I tend to abbreviate that where I am. We've got a lot of acronyms in education, right? So what's one more? And then you might also want to track when is that domain meeting or that review of existing data or that initial planning process where you're coming up with the information you already know about the student and what their evaluation plan might look like. You might also want to keep track of, okay, what's my first timeline? Here in Missouri, our prior written notice or the actual permission slip for the evaluation is due 30 days after the date of the request. So I might put my PWN 30-day timeline. I might want to keep track of when I actually sent it. I might want to track when I receive it. Or I might just name, this is the day that I got consent. And then something that I also like to keep track of in my digital case log is all the different areas of evaluation. So maybe I need to track how many students are getting cognitive assessment, achievement, social emotional, executive functioning, all those different things. And then let's also say I want to keep track of if it is social emotional, adaptive, some of those things that have questionnaires or rating scales. I might want to keep track of when did I send those. So when they're sent, to make sure that I did that, maybe when I get them back, I might want to keep track of that. And then I might also want to keep track of the evaluation timeline so that I'm not having to count to 60 in my head. So at least here in Missouri, we have 60 calendar days to complete the evaluation and hold the results meeting, or what we call the eligibility meeting here in Missouri. So I might keep track of my 60-day timeline. And then I might keep track of when the meeting is scheduled to make sure that that day is prior to the 60-day timeline. I might have an outcome. What did the team decide? I might also want to have when the report is due and then when I actually sent it. So that's a lot to keep track of, and you might have more sections, you might have less. This is what has worked for me. To make all of the columns a little bit smaller so that I can see everything, I'm going to highlight the entire sheet. So if you just come up to the top and click on the box between the A and the 1, it'll highlight everything. And then I'm just going to double click on the columns. So if you hover to where you see those 2 gray bars, and you double click, it makes everything a little bit tighter so that you can see more within the screen. So let's say for some of these things, I want to make it auto magic, right? I want to make sure that I'm not having to manually count to 30 days, for example, for this first timeline. So I would build out a formula for that and make sure that it applies everywhere. So for the 30-day prior written notice timeline, I might do it this way. So equals, let's see, the date of referral is column D. So D, and then the row that I'm in right now is the second row. So I would pick D2. And as you can see, it's highlighted there in orange. And then I'm going to hit the plus sign and hit 30. And this will automatically add 30 days to whatever that value or the date is in D2. So once I have my referral date in here, let's say I got a referral today, that will give me my 30 days automatically. So that part is really nice. And once I have that built out, you can actually click and drag and apply it to all of the columns below. So you're only having to type that in one time. Now let's say instead of typing in each date, if you want to make it faster for yourself, something else you can do is highlight the cell, or in this case, the whole column, because it'll apply to the whole column. And we'll say format, number, and we'll say date. And then from there, we'll also want to add a data validation. So if we go up to data, then data validation, add rule, and we're going to say is valid date. And we're going to apply this to D2 through the rest because our first, like D1 is the title. So we don't need that to be a date, but everything else below. We hit done. And then from there, if I double click on the cell, a calendar will pop up for me. So that will really help me to remember what is today, which seems really simple, but that'll be really nice to have. So that's something that I like to do in my case log. And then this same application can be true for your 60-day timeline, or if you have a different rules where you can adjust that formula from there. And then let's say for all of the different areas of assessment, let's say you want these to be checkboxes. That way you can just check which parts of each area of functioning are part of that particular student's evaluation plan. So I like to highlight those, and then you'll come up to Insert, and you'll go to Checkbox. Something else that you might want to do is color code. You can color code based on what is completed. So let's say for all of the areas of assessment that you do, you want that to be a particular color, or if it's a separate evaluator, maybe a speech and language pathologist or an occupational therapist, maybe they show up a different color. There's different things like that. All you would need to do is highlight that column and then go to conditional formatting. And then you'll go to where it says is not empty. You'll drop down to text is exactly. And then what Google Sheets recognizes is true or false with a checkbox. So if it's true, that means the box is checked. What do we want it to, what color do we want it to be? So let's say in my preference is this color, or maybe it's this color. And then it'll change based on whether or not that is marked. So you'd hit done. And then as you can see, if I uncheck cognitive, it defaults to not having a fill, but as soon as I check it, it has a fill. So that's another option if you wanted to kind of visually keep track of which parts of the evaluation plan are ones I'm responsible for versus other evaluators. Or if you're like me and you make everything rainbow, you could do that also. Something else that you might do is build out your 60-day. So for that timeline, it would look really similar. You'd pick your what column and what row you're on for the day that you received the consent, and then the plus sign, and then the amount of days that you have where you are. So for me, this would be equals I2 plus 60. And then that will show me as soon as I have my date in here. Let's say I got consent today, which would be really fast. Let's say we got consent today. That would put us our 60-day timeline into January of next year. And then again, once you like how this is built out, all you would have to do is click and then drag down that formula so that every time you have a new date over here, let's say we got consent in the future, it would adjust that 60-day for that particular student. So those are just a couple ways that you can kind of build out your own case log. Of course, you make it adaptable to you and what makes the most sense and what your needs are. Some school psychologists like lots of information in their case log, some like less information. Maybe you are a veteran school psychologist and you know that you only need a little bit of information, or maybe you're brand new and you don't want to miss anything. And so you want to add all of the things. So I definitely recommend trying this out and helping you to kind of keep track of all of the different due dates and things like that. So I hope this was helpful. I'm actually going to show you if you're thinking, okay, this is great, but I'm going to have to pause and rewatch and build this out, or this is great, but I don't really have time to start fresh. I've got a solution for you. In my TPT store, I have available for download and purchase a digital case log, one that is already built out for you that will calculate the student's age. You can keep track of current services. The calendars are built in, the drop downs are built in, the checkboxes that are color coded for the different evaluation plan pieces. It's all there for you. So if you're interested, I will have a link to this product in the description. One of the benefits of this product, it also includes a data page. So it will help to keep track of your hit rate and certain patterns within the evaluation types that you're receiving, the number of evaluations that you complete that year. And it's great data to have for self-advocacy as a school psychologist. I hope you found this week's Tech Tip Tuesday video to be helpful in your role as you try to decrease your stress and boost your efficiency. If you are using a digital case log and using Google Sheets to help keep track of evaluations, please leave a comment so that we can all learn from each other and build our collective knowledge around evaluation tracking. See you next week.